Chris, Roll Tide. It's good to see you. How's everything going back home?
It's good. Roll Tide and hold on 17. That's all I've got to tell you while you're out there.
That's very good advice. Well, we'll get into the conversation talking about Crimson Tide football, and obviously, there's no easy way to talk about it. It was a disappointing Saturday
Yeah.
night. What are your feelings a day or two removed from what we saw in Norman against Oklahoma?
Yeah, frustrating because you go into that ball game. We knew at kickoff that if Alabama wins, then they're going to be in the SEC championship game. And if you are, and let me clarify. I'm sorry. If you win, you're going to play Auburn for the right to play in the SEC championship game. Um, it was all right there in front of you. And it's because if you're in the SEC championship game, I know we don't have um, a sample size to work with. This is the first year of the college football playoff, but I've said I can't imagine the runner up in the SEC, whether even if it is a three-loss team, not being in the playoffs as high as Alabama had been ranked and would have been ranked had they continued to win, but they didn't. And frankly, as much as an Alabama team has been run out of the stadium, we very seldom have seen anything like that in a long time, where it's a three touchdown game, and we all know if you watched it that there's a couple of plays that could and probably should have gone differently that would have changed the look of that ball game. But the reality is the score was the score, and you don't get it done, and you put yourself in a spot where you have to just wait and see and hope for another. You frankly have to hope for another day in college football like the one that took place, where all of the crazy stuff in front happens to a bunch of teams. And if that happens, then maybe you're back in that mix once again. Certainly, you hope so, um, but it's out of your hands now. Other than obviously, you've got to try to take care of business against an Auburn team that's playing probably its best football of the year right now.
All that in mind, just how do you expect this coaching staff and these players to respond getting ready for what is a hugely important game coming up on Saturday against Auburn? But based on what you've seen so far, how do you think this group responds?
Yeah, Roger, I think they will respond well. I think they understand that uh, this game as a standalone means as much as it does to everybody in the state of Alabama. I hope it means, and it should mean, a great deal to all of them. The coaching staff understands, even though it's new for most of them. They know the Iron Bowl and the national reputation that that game has. So I would be shocked if they're not prepared, motivated, excited to play, and ready to go to work to do everything they can to win that game, but also to keep their hopes alive. We don't know how this thing is going to play out. If you have another unbelievably goofy day, just like we had this past weekend, there are a lot of dominoes that can still fall that would put Alabama back in a college football playoff. Um, but again, right now, you don't need that as motivation. It's Auburn. It's winning the game. It's reestablishing and who you are and who you want to be, and setting yourself up for the best bowl position you possibly can, whether that's a playoff game or just a traditional bowl game that's not part of the playoff mix. So there is a lot on the line, but it doesn't need any more than the fact that it's Alabama Auburn. That stands alone.
With that as well, how special is this rivalry to you? What are your first Iron Bowl memories?
Oh man, I've talked about this many times, but my dad worked at Legion Field. He was an usher, and I remember him going to every sporting event there. Um, and when I was too young to go, he would bring me something from there. It was usually a game program. I've still got the game program of Coach Bryant's 315th win over Auburn. It was Auburn's home game, so it's an Auburn game program. But Pat Dye and Paul Bryant are on the cover of that game program. Um, I remember my best friend growing up, who still uh, is one of my best friends today. He was an Auburn fan, and of course, for me, growing up a Crimson Tide fan, we would pick at each other, and we still send texts throughout the course of the year, every day, I should say, in relation to something. And usually the ball game comes up pretty frequently, but um, it did. It can be truly brother against brother, and family member against family member, boyfriend against girlfriend. There was a time in the teenage years where that was the case as well. Um, it was just it's an amazing game, and what it means. And for me, again, going back to the days of Coach Bryant, and I'm so fortunate. I never met Coach Bryant, but so many people that have been a part of that game over the years, coaches, players on both sides that I've gotten to know and be friends with and understand. I'll never forget a conversation with the late Pat Sullivan. We were talking one day about he and Johnny Musso were were great friends, and even though they played obviously at different schools, but they were great friends in high school, competitors, but friends, and even in college, playing each other, and then going out to eat with their girlfriends at the time, who became, I believe, their wives. And um, he said, I don't think you could do that. I remember him saying when we talked 15 years ago about it, he said, I don't know if you can do that anymore. He said, because of social media and fan bases, people would get after you too much. But he said that's the way it was. You'd fight tooth and nail, but we were friends, we were family, and you know how this works. Um, it's kind of tough. Andy Bertram's one of my best friends in broadcasting, and I can't enjoy his success most of the time, and he can't enjoy mine because of how it impacts the other school or team. And we always say to each other, hope you have a great broadcast. And we can mean that sincerely. It's just tough because you don't want to see his team win. You don't want to see my team win. That's part of it. But it's the way the game goes. And it's such a huge honor just to play a small part in it and have the privilege of broadcasting it.
It's the Iron Bowl coming up on Saturday. But first of all, Chris, here in Las Vegas, we're going to be busy with men's basketball. It's
Yeah.
Alabama taking part in the Players Era Festival. A great win last week against Illinois in the CM Newton Classic. What are your expectations for Coach Oates and the basketball team? First of all, against Houston and Rutgers, and then we'll see who they play coming up on Saturday.
First of all, a big thank you for falling on the sword and taking that tough assignment of going to Vegas for a couple of days so I don't have to. Um,
It's the
it
least
will
I
be
could do,
nice.
Chris.
I understand. It will be nice to have some more time to get ready for Saturday and to do the radio show with Coach DeBoer on Wednesday night, and be a little more relaxed and not have a 5 a.m. flight as you will on Thanksgiving Day. But um, from a basketball standpoint, I think we saw a team that understood that even though they played pretty well in spurts at Purdue, when you're in the position you're now in, which is being the hunted rather than the hunter, you've got to be ready for a full 40 minutes or maybe beyond. And I thought they did a much better job of that against Illinois. Granted, they got to do it in front of a more friendly crowd than what they did playing in West Lafayette a week earlier. But this is a this is a team that should be playing with a lot of confidence. They're playing a Houston team that I believe only has the one setback, and that was to obviously a very good Auburn team. So I fully expect a great. It's one of the things I love, Roger. One of many things I love about college basketball. You can have these type games, and it will have the feel of a late round, if not Final Four NCAA tournament game, and they will play tooth and nail. We've had some great matchups with Houston in recent years, and I think it will be incredibly intense, and it will help prepare you for the NCAA tournament, but it ain't going to keep you out. If you lose, it's not a guarantee you're in. If you win, even though both teams with their schedules and their talent levels should feel pretty good about the fact they'll be in, this still is one where you can lay it all on the line. And when it's over with, you're going to have a much better gauge of who you are as a team. But there's so much more to be played. It doesn't keep you out of a playoff, it doesn't cost you a championship. Regardless of the outcome, you're going to be better off for having played it. And I just hope it's one where they come out with a victory and play very, very well. And I think they will. It's a great week. It's a great opportunity and a little bit different format as well for the players. And not that they need added incentive, but they'll have it in this one. It's the new day and age of NIL and the professionalism, if you will, of the college game. And I'm interested in seeing how guys respond with that as well.
We look forward to it. We miss you out here, Chris, in Las Vegas, but thank you for holding down the fort back home with Hey Coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show coming up on Wednesday. And then, of course, our Iron Bowl coverage coming up on Saturday as well. Just all the best to you the rest of the week and have a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for your time. Roll Tide.
Same to you, buddy. Roll Tide. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving, a good time. And again, if you'll just put 5 on red 33 for me, I would appreciate it.
Roll Tide. We'll see you, Chris.